One team getting their playoff spot, one on the side stream trying to get theirs, and one more game ahead for us here to find out who's going to be making it to playoffs. It's M80 going up against Trust in Plug. This one should be super exciting. We've gotten to see kind of rebuilds coming out from the teams, and this is going to be now, Dan, the ultimate showdown.
I am actually very excited for this one because these are two teams that we've heard of since. I mean, for M80, we've heard of this team for years. For Trust and Plug, we've heard of as of recently, maybe in the offseason. That's when we started hearing that name more and more. But these players that you recognize as well, I think it should be maybe one of the best matches that we've had for qualification to make it to playoffs. And a Mady that I think came with a lot of expectations. They couldn't bring Sato right at the beginning of the season. Now he's here and now he's ready to play. But on the other side is a Trust and Plug that are really hungry for those victories. They've made some recent changes and I think they look great. They've been changing compositions, changing AGS, changing rosters. So it's different adaptations in different ways that make for such a good matchup today.
And talking about this M80 squad here and highlighting that change, it's Sato coming in. This is going to be Sato's second game with the team going up against Shopify Rebellion Black. Didn't necessarily have the performance that maybe he wanted. He was tweeting about it, a little bit to adjust, settle in. But I don't think it was a bad performance here, Ash. Just maybe not to the standard he wants. So I'm excited to see then what he's able to do going into today.
Yeah, I think, it's a little bit of like a warm-up matchup for him, right? I think it's good that Sato had the opportunity to play a match with this team and an official and not have it be as high stakes going into the highest stake match of the split that they could really have to guarantee that they can even make a potential playoffs run. So for him, I feel like he did perform his role really well. He was out there making space for the team when we saw them playing up against Shopify Rebellion and Black, but unfortunately wasn't finding the same kind of success that I think he's used to seeing with those first engagements and falling a little bit flat in that regard. But this is a player where I'm fully confident that he'll be able to bounce back into a match like today and be able to bring that firepower alongside with the space making that we know he's already capable of doing.
Someone that we did get to see perform on their role in that last series, even if it did end up being a loss here. You talking about him, Dan. I mean, we get to see a couple of different looks coming out, but someone who is still able to do well, and I'm looking forward to what he can do today.
Yeah, that is a question for this team, and it's just again a team that came with really high expectations because you look at roster, you look at the roster, you look at players like you, and then you don't know how they're gonna end up performing. And I think he is and has been one of the greatest because of how flexible he is. I mean, just in that last match, he was playing a little bit of that breach that we're looking at right now, but also being able to play the Vice, which is a crucial. And just an absolute need for teams right now to be playing this Vice. And even though the meta might be slightly changing a little bit, as we've seen in the past couple of weeks, I like how flexible he is. I like the firepower that he brings to the team, but it's still an M80 that it seems like there's a lot more to be done, and I'm wondering if they had enough time for today.
I love that you talk about the firepower that he brings too, right? Because he might not always be at the top of this team when you're looking at the statistics, but his impact moments are where Caillou really shines. That is why I think that matchup against Shopify Rebellion and Black ended up being even close on a couple on those two maps, even though they weren't able to take it to a third. It was big part of it was because Caillou was able to pull out like at least I think 3 clutches up against that team and really being able to show up and even make a difference when the team was down in numbers too, to try and equalize or find some sort of advantage. And doing all of that while also leading the team is a great feat.
100%. And wrapping discussion back around to Sato. I was getting ahead of myself here, guys, because I'm just so excited about this change. I say change like this wasn't intended to be how the team was from the get-go. But Dan, I'm ready for the run back today, because if that is a Sato that's disappointed in his performance, like what level are we getting for today's match?
Sato is so good. One of my favorite players when we were watching Ascension. He was playing for Galores before. And like you said, this change was intended since the beginning of Challengers. He was meant to be in the team from day one, but they had some issues bringing him back. If you guys don't know, he's Brazilian. So it is, I think, one of the only... I guess, imports that we have from Brazil right now in Challengers North America, and he brings so much. He's such an insane duelist. If you were watching this and you know about this guy, but we're still just getting to know him and what he's capable of doing here in this specific region. And like you said, yeah, he was a little disappointed. He didn't do bad at all. It was just, I think the expectations for himself and the expectations that people have of him being the only Brazilian player in the league are pretty high. And I think today he should be more comfortable. They had more time to prepare. He's now been here for quite some time in the US, so I think it should be a better performance for him today and from him today, and maybe the difference maker that M80 needs to close it out and make it to playoffs.
Especially too, like when we look back at the last series, it's not just his debut, but going up against a Shopify Rebellion Black that had a really strong look after their own current changes, right? So they were up against some really, really stacked opposition, and then still being able to put forward a respectable debut, even if it's not something that he was happy with. And having to make that whole transition in, having to actually be that import and adapt to everything else, it takes a little time. So I'm hoping that we can see that all start to click together for today. And looking at the other end, who they're going up against, we got to talk about this Trust in Plug roster. Because, I mean, Shopify Rebellion Black, their last opponents were pretty strong, but Trust in Plug, this is the team that got that upset over yesterday. I mean, this is the team that closed it out here, Ash. So they definitely have been able to step up and show that they're formidable opponents as well. And they have the opportunity to take this all the way.
Yeah, I think the crazy part is that you were talking about how, you know, M80, they fell up against SRB, who acquired Monsi, who is originally on Trust and Plug, and then now losing out on your IGL in that regard is a massive change to be undergoing this late into this stage for Trust and Plug. And the fact that they're able to they were able to take that series, up against YFP yesterday, I think says a lot about the depth of this roster, how they're able to continuously adapt on the fly in that regard. And I feel like it's going to be a really big test for them going up against M80 now as well.
And starting to talk about Teague first, because you're talking about the rebuild that the team had to do with their IGL leaving, right? And this was Teague that stepped up to the plate in IGL. The debut was up against Hubert Academy, where they did take a game off of them. And then yesterday, being able to see this turnaround, especially with that overtime in the final map. And then on top of that, Dan, still able to put up numbers like the IGL debuff not really taking too much effect. Like, that's great stuff.
No, they did pretty good. I mean, it was an insane upset what they got yesterday against YFP, and we saw a couple different compositions that they, instead of playing the double duels that we talked to Monster about, they started opting for different ideas, for more standard ideas more than anything, and Teague was a big part of it because he was playing this Tejo, but he was also, like you were saying, IGLing, taking the new IGLing role, and also being able to frag out this way. That is not, I mean, we know that's not something that anybody can do, so it's looking pretty good for Trust and Plug. Maybe the best we've seen from them yet.
Natural born IGL, you know, all it had to take was a moment of need for a hero to step up for the team. Making changes, not even like making changes, being forced into a change with Monsi leaving so late, definitely a tough blow, but the team has still been looking great, which is fantastic to see. And someone who's really, really stepped up. You want to talk about step-ups in moments of need, you need to talk about Sacred's performance yesterday, because this was just absolutely crazy. I mean, Ash, like, Sacred's been someone that's actually put up really good numbers across the board. This wasn't the first game, but yesterday was just fantastic and someone that we need to talk about more.
No, for sure. I think that I love that. I feel like within the past couple of weeks, we've been having this opportunity to highlight our controller players a little bit better and the impact that they're able to have for their squad. The fact that, you know, he has so much utility that he has to worry about and work with here, right? And is still able to so consistently pick and choose kind of the risks that he's taking to create that impact for the team has been great for the side of Trust and Plug, being a huge hero as far as even getting certain trades down and whatnot, and working around his utility really well.
Got the clutches, the multi-kills, the ace yesterday. He was going insane. Sacred is such a good player on the controller role. And something that we talked about yesterday is that we didn't really get to highlight him as much throughout the season, but it was because yesterday was just one of the best games of his career that we've seen here in Challengers. And I hope that he's able to keep it up because it looked amazing. As you guys were saying, was having such a great impact. I don't think Trust and Plug would have won the match yesterday without Sacred. It was the clutches to close out the half, the pistols as well that he was winning, the ace that I just mentioned. He was really doing everything, and I want to see more of that from the Omen.
Yeah, you get a Sacred that's performing like that today, and you get a Trust and Plug that is just scaling up with Teague getting more and more comfortable in this IGL role. And I definitely think that there is the potential here for this to be really close, or the second even upset of the day. So that is definitely some super exciting stuff. I'm excited for this series. I think this is going to be the closest one that we have, is the only one of these teams now can make it to playoffs, which sucks because I think that they're both so worthy. But talking about today's series and how this is going out, how this is going to be going down with the map picks and bans, M80, Ash, they're going to be kicking it off on none other than everyone's favorite map here, Abyss.
Yep, okay. Yeah, everyone's favorite Abyss. M80 have looked really good on this map. They've had really solid results here up against NBG and YFP. I think you consider the composition that they've been running as well, which is a little bit different from what we see from other teams. They opt for like that double controller with the Astra Omen and omit having a Sentinel on this map, instead looking to play kind of like hyper aggressive in some ways with that Jet Yoru composition. So I'm really excited to see if they're going to continue forward with this philosophy, considering the fact that we do have Sadono coming in as well. But obviously it's still going to be possible, right? But I'm going to be curious to see like if any adjustments will end up happening compositionally here on our first match.
I'm excited too, then just looking at this Abyss, like for M80, it would be curious about changes, but we haven't seen this coming out from Trust and Plug here in Challengers, Dan. So I'm kind of curious, especially with this rebuild, what's going to be coming out there, how confident they are on this map pick.
Yeah, there's going to be a reason. I think a lot of, I mean, we haven't seen the Abyss as much here in Challengers. I think it got really tricky, right? We saw at the beginning of this map playing that center composition with the Jet, then swapping into the double duelist. And I feel like for Trust and Plug, I mean, yesterday that was the whole narrative. We talked about the double duelists that they were playing in so many different maps. There's a chance that we can see it too, and it can be effective. But I think I want to believe a little bit more in M80. I think this is a team, and this is more than anything, a staff behind M80 has always been good, has always been a big part of the reason why they just made it to Ascension last year, why they've been constantly making it to the last instances of the tournaments. And I think not making it to playoffs is just something that it's just simply not in their heads. I want to see what they have prepared. I think I'm expecting a lot of great things from M80 today.
I mean, I feel like pulling up our predictions based off that speech. I think I know exactly.
Imagine.
What way you're kind of leaning in this, of all people. But it looks like you are going to be wrong because I'm against the world again. And we all know how that went down. Trust and Plug are going to take this. Easy 2-0. Don't ask any questions.
Okay. I won't ask any questions then.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the acceptance here, Dan.
Hey,
but
I get it. Trust and Plug did pretty good yesterday, and I would be inclined to vote for them again. I think this one is, like you said, the closest match that we're going to have today for sure, but I think one of the most interesting matches that we have when there's so much at stake, right? You want to make playoffs, you don't want to get eliminated, and then you have such amazing rosters in M80 and Trust and Plug that the pressure is on for both of them, and it could go the way of Trust and Plug. I don't think it would be an upset, really.
Yeah, I feel like it still would be a little bit of an upset. At least like there's a world where I feel like in this world, actually, people don't really consider the idea of M80, regardless of like this roster. I think just because of their previous results in VCL, the idea of them not making playoffs is kind of just like Sierra said, out of everyone's heads in a way.
Yeah.
But then for Trust and Plug, I feel like they've looked really good up against YFP yesterday. Yes, I think YFP did end up throwing a couple of rounds towards the end and whatnot to allow Trust and Plug to get that win. But I feel like that momentum that you can get from an upset like that, and if they're able to even upset, even though I voted for M80, if they goes Sierra's way and they're able to upset M80 today, I feel like it's going to be one of those Cinderella stories for Trust and Plug, where they'll continue to take down a lot of these giants.
Yep, I mean, that's how they got known. That's how we know Trust and Plug. First time we heard about them, they won against 100 Thieves. So if they win against M80, it would be just, next steps.
I mean, I think this is going to be a close series across, like, regardless of any way that this is going to go down. I think this is going to be really, really close. But I think with how they've just been scaling up, uh, I'm expecting some good things. If M80, if Sato is fully just like warmed up, integrated, and is going to just drop like 30 or something, then I think Trust and Plug are going to have a tough time. But this is going to be so close. So everyone's got to grab some popcorn, some snacks, a drink or two, get some water. We're going to be taking a quick break on the other end. Elimination playoff match between M80 and Trust and Plug. Stay tuned. M80, Trust and Plug, and it's all going to be started on Abyss for the first map of the series as both of these teams vie for the final playoff spot. Both with 3 wins. Both have had their up and downs throughout the split, but I'm excited to get into this, especially too with changes, Ash. I'm curious, are we seeing this different look from M80, from Trust and Plug? We've never seen a look from them in Challengers on this map yet. Like, what is to come on the other side?
I don't know. I'm really curious. I feel like Trust and Plug will kind of surprise us. Wouldn't be surprised if we do see a double duelist coming out from them
Play
based
Reyna.
off of yesterday's. That's just because you're a Reyna main, Dan. Come on.
Imagine.
I'm so sorry, Dan. I'm so sorry.
Not happening.
Hey, still double duelist. I mean, we already saw it for M80. You two talked about it, how we've seen this composition before, and it's a map that M80 has played in the past. It was with Sato on the Jet, Okeanos on the Yoru, but we now also find out that Trust and Plug is going to be running that composition too. The only big difference here, which is a pretty big one for sure, is going to be Vice compared to teams like M80 that are opting for this no Sentinel composition on the map.
I like that we're seeing Trust and Plug stick with the double duelist, considering that was maybe kind of a downfall yesterday when they strayed away from that, considering this is a team with such firepower going up against the firepower squad in themselves, M80. So it's time to get this showdown started. Head over to Abyss and back over to your casters. It's Jen and Vans.
Thanks, Sierra. Yep, we got the top dogs versus the underdogs, and Bao barking up the tree of his former team from stage 3. Trust and Plug have got to believe that M80 is beatable, but the M80 franchise also have a legacy to live up to.
That's why going at this game or into this game, I actually don't even know who's the top dog or underdog in this series. Because, yeah, despite Trust and Plug losing Monsi over to SRB, they still look quite good. And the addition of Chaotic, and then also going through the interviews of Teague yesterday when he got the upset against YFP, saying that, hey, we're actually very comfortable now playing double duelist because of Chaotic's role and maybe not having to go on so many double initiator roles. It still works out because you've already seen champions of Masters Bangkok playing double duelists in all of their comps, being T1. So going into this meta with a Teho, Breach, Yoru, etc., you're allowing so many different... Okay, I'm gonna shut up. Here's actually...
Yeah, shut up. People are dying, okay?
Just dying to watch this game.
Yeah, and on M80's map pick, they're dying just to finish this one off. And, well, they do have B-Dog Glow, and they lost Okeanos, and that's a big boon for your team. So now that they got the spike, kind of M80 are back to a default.
Deploying drone.
I don't know what happened because we went straight from overview into a battle into A main. So at least now we're into the mid rounding to see what's going to happen here with M80 on the attack. And the drone actually doesn't clear Jerwin, which might be able to get the opener here. And he will. That's spiked out.
Okay. They don't call him Jerwin for no reason. That was clean. Now Sato has a lot to live up to also try to get this spike, while Bao is just going to keep lurking at mid. You don't lose too much map control, but 41 seconds left. Would M80 really want to shift their plans? They're really just trying to cut noise and make it seem like they did, but looks like they're still going to hit A.
Yeah, it's tough.
30
There's a huge
seconds left.
high-low from Plug.
One enemy remaining.
Oh, Jerwin's looking so clean already, and the series warmed up and ready to go. Sato's going to keep this close, dashes away from Sacred. And now you got Mikey sprinting over to assist 2-on-1. Sato is going to get the plant, is stunned up, expecting action from window. The jump down happens, but Plug will still take the pistol.
And that's the thing. Going into these type of battles that you're going to have here from M80 and Plug, both teams very comfortable with playing double duelists as well. And the approaches are slightly different. From one end, you have a double controller here from M80. On the other end, you have a Vise out with Mikey playing into that spot for Trust and Plug. But both of them will add great value into the amount of stalls you could have here from both sides. So that's what I was trying to get to before we got into this piss round. The different looks that we have in compositions in this meta is actually quite nice because there's not really a cookie cutter way to play the game. You can play double initiate, you can play double smokes, you can play double duelist and still get great value out of it. So expect a lot of good mid-rounding calls out of this matchup right now on a map like Abyss when you are playing a little bit of double duelist, when you know it gets chaotic just as we saw in the piss round, and then we just have to see what happens after it. M80 going into a round where they want to leverage an outlaw, force buy, hero buy actually, as Sato went into full shields and gets an outlaw buy from Caillou. This is very risky.
A confident guy after what, like the 3K or whatever he got in the first round. Like, I trust in Jerwin. I am subscribed to the Church of Jerwin, but that is just the first round. And after what we saw in that series against YFP, honestly, anything is possible. I don't think there are any more favorites in Challengers. Everyone is 3-3. The last win, last slots to define if you're going into playoffs. M80 are going to trigger some of that Vise util from Mikey, who is obscured by some smoke.
This is where it's important because we want to focus more on the buy from Sato with the outlaw as well on the attack side, not just on Jerwin with the outlaw on defense, right? So wasting out this wall and the Razor Vines, you're going to start forcing players to peek out right early.
See how the Jets match up and emerging through the smoke. You were right. We should have trusted in Sato all along. But Jerwin still hanging around and now has a squad to back him up. This Plug ready to trade in that 3 versus 3. Sato with the third. On the other side of the box with the spike planted. Bao's on the off angle. He's trying to be isolated there by Chaotic. He's also trying to address all the threats that could be surrounding him.
Last player
As
standing.
M80 don't want to just cower either, but as soon as they emerge, Plug just win the game of hide and seek.
Yeah, a little bit of a miscomm. Well, I guess it's not that much of a miscomm. There was a lot of jump peeking coming out here from Val's side because he was going to be the main contact to see if he was going to push down by Chaotic or if Chaotic's going to try to wrap around. If he wraps around, then Caillou could help and he could set up the crossfire. So the other two hidden behind the back plant was focusing on that pivot coming out here from the Astra on a rotate. But not that without all of these shots coming out from Sato. It's only his second game that Desk was mentioning before, and he's already popping off in his second game. You can already see a better level of comfort out of M80, a better level out of communication, and on top of that, you have Okeanos being able to play a duelist role still. So this is great firepower, a great plan being built up so far by M80.
Yeah, and this is a Trust and Plug team who haven't even played this map in Challengers. They did well on it in Fun Havers, but that's a different playground. This is M80's pick. Very quiet, slow start. And that's what I like about M80. Trust and Plug are in a closer corner, ready for the recon or even a shock bolt. And that drone is going to be shot down there from M80. So they got to expect something close, and they're not even going to check the corner. Who expects Trust and Plug to be there? As you have Sato dashing back towards this team. Still threats on all sides from Trust and Plug. But even through that exchange, it's actually M80 that had better numbers, but maybe it's because Bao is nowhere near this war.
Yeah, Bao is actually still trying to lurk up here towards this B site, but it will get engaged with the wall coming up. He's committed towards it, but I love this reposition from Mikey. They think now that the site could be open towards the B site, and for M80, if they rotate over, they can get caught off. So if anything, great mid-rounding call coming out here on the side of M80 so they could slow the tempo and re-hit towards the A site and not get caught here off the rotates.
Look at this flank from Jerwin too. The Outlaw, it's not going to be so fun, but it's all about the timing. Teleport from M80 to get the plant in smoke as safe as they can be, while Kai watches the flank and a great read to catch Jerwin. Got the paranoia through the backside if M80 were worried about an immediate counter, but M80 hold their own.
Yeah, all perfect being thrown so far from both teams in that previous round. Just how we kicked things off here on the trap play. You saw the gate crash coming out from the Yoru first, so they could try to go for a bait and switch with Sacred, trying to get some picks. And as it gets first blood, there was a little bit of mistime in terms of like the Yoru flash off the recalled smoke, which kind of caught Chaotic off guard, but they still were able to get a little bit of a fighting going through. But Caillou on the mid-rounding call was great in that for M80 to just continue to work back towards the A site, identifying that they weren't getting pressure from the A main entrance and just covered all their bases. Very nicely done, but Plug still comes into a very strong buy, and Bao first contact on the top of the window, but Orb now picked up here by Okeanos over towards B.
Yeah, just these kind of aggressive pushes from Plug are making M80 conditioned to just worry a little bit more on every approach and every corner. Now being down Sato is going to be your main entry for a site like B, but that's the beauty of two duelists and a dimensional drift from Okeanos, who's going to ping this Asher through all the smokes. They're really leaning on Okeanos to map out what is going on. And Plug will wait at the back site. Okeanos trying to put pressure on the back line. Caillou will get two, and M80 just have to go on the hunt. And there's 3 left of this defense, and the spike is down. This is not as calculated as you would have hoped from M80, and then these isolated duels, Plug will stay calm and take the round.
And that was such a nice try, too. The timing off the recon dart to swing up behind there just to try to catch an enemy off guard. But that is some quick flicks coming out here from Trust and Plug. And you can't really overextend when you're playing against a controller like Sacred. He was highlighted on the desk. He was also popping off in that Trust and Plug series. Even most importantly, the third map against YFP. When we talked about how stellar it was from both controllers being Jake and Sacred in that series. Just because both teams didn't want to lose, and Sacred just looked like he wanted it more, and he still wants it. Currently 6-1-1 in this first half of the series. But this is M80 now just having to be a little bit cleaner in their duels for the fights, because the scaling that they have so far, despite losing a player early in a round, still quite good. Still able to manage to move into the site and set up for a good pulse plant. But it just had to be a little bit more coordinated to watch each other's backs.
Speaking of setups, you have Mikey with walls and thorns all up on A. expecting M80 to pivot after a few failures at B. Still took a good scrap though, but PLUG are just trying to keep up with the M80 game plan, which is not very obvious as the barriers come down.
Yeah, and they haven't really identified yet where the Vice is currently being set up by Trust and PLUG here, this being M80. So far, Bao still has to move up towards this ramp. If they try to move in towards the A side and just go for a last-minute explosion, this might catch them off guard, but I love that. Their drone stays low, so they know now that the Vice wall is up there, that the setup is there, but there's a double flank coming out from PLUG.
One with dimensional drift, like if Chaotic wants to be extra safe about it, but M80 were keen on the flank, and at least the clone gets shot, gives an edge for Chaotic, and he's got flashes, and he's got more kills in his back pocket, and does severe damage to the backs of M80. But Spike is still in hand, but Caillou is now flustered and has to separate himself from B-Dog to join the lurk from Bao at B.
And thankfully, the timing's good because Bao almost had that one where he could walk, or Sacred, sorry, he could walk out and get that pick onto Caillou. And as he tries to run away, there's going to be a late lurk, very late lurk by Sacred that might still come out into fruition here towards the end of the post plant for M80.
Just like another post plant, M80, they can hide behind this box, but it didn't work out for them when they had just so little space to work with. They were safe with how long and just jumping out. Caillou wants to take advantage of their security and pushes out against that flank, which is now gone. PLUG on the high ground, gonna work together, and off the recon from Teague, knowing there's got to be at least one near the spike, and sneaks up on Bao and gets back into the shadows. So Teague lives on despite taking some initial shots. There is the shock bolt on the post plant and the Hunter's Fury. Caillou and M80 just playing time, and now you're just playing chicken. And this is beautifully played from M80 to secure the round without even needing to lock eyes with the defense.
And that's something that you're playing double duelists on your side for M80, so you know that there's going to be a lot of aggression and attempts of lurks and flanks coming out on the defensive side, just because of the nature of the double duelist single initiator role in a map like Abyss with very long rotates on the defense. So you're trying to cut rotate in that sense. So the fact that they were able to throw it out of your clone and bait out the wall and still want to go back, knowing that there's going to be at least one player flanking on the back of middle, and then again on top of that, a super late flank towards the end that Caillou was also able to identify to win for that fight. PLUG is going to have to be a little bit smarter here in trying to rotate across the map.
Dimensional drift is still kept by Chaotic, but having Jerwin by his side last round, of course you're going to go in confidently, but M80 have been able to snuff out these flanks, so Trust and PLUG will have to change things up, because no matter how creative they are and how surprising they can be, M80 are a very mechanical team that know how to react on the spot.
I'm just trying to see them make a little bit of noise on this side here, but you're still noticing that they're adding players on middle and towards A main. There could still be like a late push coming through, but now with Sato finally rotating back to meet up with the team, this is definitely going to be a finish towards this B site.
Not a great start, but Jerwin had a sheriff anyway. M80 just going to flood in off the back of their smokes to reach this corner. It's great picks from M80 and even a mid lurk from B-Dog. See if anyone's rotating over. It's just two left. It's just Mikey and Teague, but you got recon, you got shock bolts, but this is an uphill battle. Yeah, you're right.
Too hard for them to retake at this point here for PLUG. And like I said, if you're not going to be, you know, aggressive to try to gain space here for a double duelist composition, it's very hard for you to play rotates if you're not able to anchor within the sites. You already see how difficult it is for them with zero middle control. By the time all three players died on the B site with only one falling down for M80 and they lost all control of mid, you're playing into the unknown, and you're going to lose these weapons with the money that you have left. So that's why you're seeing the proactiveness here of the defensive side, and maybe something that you would expect here out of M80 so far. But when I'm talking about being better into your rotates, is also okay to be aggressive, but also understanding that your opponents will be reading into you rotating across, and you could maybe set up better angles, better util to try to set up your duelists and try to get these entries, especially in the hands of Chaotic and Jerwin at the same time, that you know they're going to be good in those moments. Chaotic, a great duelist player, also stepped up to the plate against YFP yesterday, especially on the attack side, just like Jerwin, just like Sacred rather, on Lotus.
You got a Cosmic Divide coming up, Dimensional Drift. There's just so much offensive firepower from M80 just in terms of the agent select, as you pointed out. But this post plant could be strong. They can establish themselves once again. M80 have found success at B. It's obviously 3-3, so it's not come without a fight.
Who's next?
And a recon well read by Mikey as Plug just staying hidden. M80 pinging all these spots thanks to that Yoru ult, and this is kind of scaring Plug into wanting to play off-site. And look how deep Okeanos is. He's going to reveal himself behind the team and force Plug's attention behind, while M80, I guess, don't even want to push from the front. They're going to use this as a fake to go to A. And the damage is insane. How is he still alive?
I'm telling you, it's Okeanos. He was still popping up with numbers on an initiator role when he had to give up that role when Sato finally joined the roster here for M80. So awesome. Yeah, whatever. He falls, but it's all good. He's gotten all that space here for M80 to plant on a 4v2.
Spike planted.
Mikey his visit is earlier than expected.
Oh, no.
Like, people are still slow walking around, but Sato will sacrifice his life for the info. Recon, Caillou, ready as the smokes come up, and B-Dog holds it down at the window. Mikey's not going to have any friends or any help. Any util to address this, all he could do is try to bring the fight towards him by tapping the spike, and it was a good effort against B-Dog, but this is quite a close map still.
Exactly, and that's what you're expecting out of Chaotic. The similar things that Okeanos just did here as he came out of his dimensional drift out towards the defender spawn. And for Trust and Plug, it was a lower buy that you had. You're just trying to maybe do some damage as much as you could. You have a strong buy going into this one and also pulling out the operator for the first time. But just before we get into this replay to look at the minimap, it didn't really look like they were trying to find some early lockdown and angle control here for the side of Trust and Plug. They're trying to play the high angle to look down here towards lower B ramp. And that's why both controllers, or should I say the Vise and the Astra, are fully anchored up towards A. This is a perfect 2-1-2 setup if you want to play a little bit more passive in terms of info, because now at the minute mark, you can start droning out and you can start flushing the players into that op right away. So you have to make sure that if you're able to funnel everybody towards this B side, Chaotic cannot miss his first op shot.
But are M80 going to want to press through mid with how much they're scouting around there? And then you got Bao checking out B, and Plug's defense on B2 is very forward. They usually kind of play that back corner on the high ground, so kind of expecting M80 smokes to cover that half. And Plug want to maybe play proactive. See how it goes. It is going to be A that's hit. And the flashes, the recons, force Plug's defenses back, but M80 do get cut off by the Vise util, so it's great delay by that Sentinel.
Exec's about to come in right after here.
Just waiting. The smoke on one side as M80 stomp their way through, all thanks to Sato, who holds the right side. Rest of M80 push the left, well coordinated and 2 HP to spare. With that plant too.
What can you do here for Trust and Plug when you lost control of both sites? One losing the op versus the lurk up from Bao, which was perfect here from Bao's side. And then on the A site, the U2 was beautiful for M80. Not only did you have a lineup for the clone to break the wall out from the A main side, and it also allows for you to scale out if somebody shoots it from the front. But then they comboed a recon dart and a flash that also wasted out all of the stall util on the defensive end of Trust and Plug because they were getting smothered by util. So by the time that goes down and all their util's gone, they have nothing left to defend, and they've already forfeited the back of the site. That is such a good scale up by M80 so far on both ends. It was unnecessary for Bao to move up on that side, but yet he still won his fight. So M80, beautiful attack round on that round number 8.
Yeah, there was a delay from Plug and Vise util happened. M80, they were slowed but not stopped. I'm wondering if Plug can really fight fire with fire, and we've had this chaotic dimensional drift for so many rounds, but hey, at least Mikey has his ult too, and a timeout, give them even more time to figure out how to use these.
Yeah, for sure. And it's understandable, right? Because the dimensional drift was basically going to be used on a retake for Trust and Plug. Again, you just didn't want Chaotic to lose his op shot on the B side hold. But even then, when you've lost already everybody on the A side anchor, we talked about it before. Very long rotates that you're trying to do. M80 did a great job. I didn't get the chance to talk about it either. The early mid control that he took and a fake TP on the top middle really forced the defenders all the way back towards spawn. So now you're going to have to try to rescale through middle with zero information and then try to still save util for the retake on the A site. That's why it's very important for you to, if you're playing reactionary on your spots, on your sites, you have to win your fights. And unfortunately, they lost both sides. So that I think the timeout is just going to be on that a little bit, just to, if you want to be more reactive, just try to make sure that you're playing around each other to make sure that you're able to at least get some trades across. But if not, go back for that mid control that you actually were able to do quite well at the beginning of this half, but just lose in the mid rounding. You got to be smarter than onto your mid round if you do get a good mid control into the next gun round.
I can see why you said it's hard to tell who the underdog is in this one with
100%.
M80 having such a tough schedule, you know, having Qbert and Shopify Rebellion Black at the end, tripping them up when they were up 3-1 before that. To Trust and Plug, that upset against YFP, now hoping to upset towards Spawn, and Bao holding their own. And B-Dog doing work too with the assist. And Sato carves his way forward, so M80 get pressed, but they retaliate.
That's almost, if not weapons gone here for Trust and Plug. Maybe Teague wants to save his rifle into the next, but he's pretty much a one-and-done spot.
Now just doing as much damage as he can. And a flawless round post-timeout from Plug is gonna say a lot, but we saw a shift, right, from Plug. Just barriers down, taking control of the round, just kind of putting fate in their own hands, but... Yeah. M80, like we've pointed out, it's really hard to make them uncomfortable. It's hard to stress them because they are so good at reacting and they are so intelligent. And their franchise is such a legacy. They've been dominating challengers for years. So it's to be expected that M80 win this series. But with how Trust and Plug can push top teams to the edge, it's a hard one to predict.
I feel at this point, though, it's them trying to be more proactive this time around. They have a great ult into the Your ult, and you also have a Sova playing close by with the Hunter's Fury. They could maybe try to take the upper hand first and try to set the tone in the very beginning, or try to use it for the retake. It might be the first call to alter through with this.
Oh, the flash comes out, a good dodge, but Sato couldn't fight back in time. Chaotic with the big plays. He's really impressed me on the Yori, even if he's holding his ult for retakes. His gun works just as well. And this dismantles M80's initial, or at least plan A, of going to A. But it's all been about Bao and the options he provides. Try not trigger the Vice util, but he's in a bit of a pickle now, and he's dead.
That was so close. He almost had it at some point, but even then, it all started quite well here from Trust and Plug. A flawless round at that on top of it. So I love the little change. I was expecting to go around the dimensional drift so that he could be the recon dart for the Hunter's Fury out on the defense, but just going for the simple pop flash instead because M80 hasn't been as quick or as noisy in their defaulting over on the A side at first. I think it kind of made sense to save that strat for a little bit later if you need it. But that said, they still have two strong ults on the defensive side. Sorry.
Enemy remaining.
Clean holds on B, and you still have the op offensively, but just now they are expecting, I don't know, chaotic jumping out of A with flashes. You're worried if you're M80 just how aggressive you can be. You just got to be always on your toes.
Decoy. Pack side op 2 on the side of M80 that continues on. I mean, you side from Sato with the Outlaw in that round number 2 and also already carry out an operator a couple of rounds ago before. Just trying to make some noise here towards this A side.
Vise util being tripped up and Plug aren't changing their game plan. But now that that delay is gone, sky's the limit for M80. They decide to cut noise at B and just really rely on Sato's confidence of having his ult, having the op. Now that they have sights, there's no smokes hindering them.
The walk-in's
they start
huge.
To get vision. Yeah. Plug has recon. He just has to play his life, honestly. Just wait for reinforcements. A bit of an exchange in mid, and this is going to maybe slow down Plug's rotation coming from the B side and plenty of time for M80 to plan, or you would think,
no.
before this Sova from the window emerges. Teague was not going to let that go by for free. It's going to be planted again. A shock bolt gets Sato down to 20 HP and now 0. Just M80 have these menaces to deal with and are just finally now addressing them. But man, this was just chaotic from the get-go.
I mean, that was not bad by M80 until they decided to plant where nobody's going to protect them. Like, the walk-in was perfect, right? And they did see Teague on the top. They threw a flash, they threw a smoke, but then they just left it. So they never accounted that, oh, wait, the Sova could actually just dart through the smoke and just spray your spike planter. Instead of trying to push out where they already had back of sight control, they could have planted towards the bridge, or they could have had somebody just continue to protect him while he's trying to plant. And just that in itself, you had to sacrifice 2 players before you're able to set up into a post plant. Right over here. Like, what are we doing? On the side of M80 here to not help out the planter at that spot.
Yeah, I was surprised they went for the plant after. There were clear threats around, but M80, last round of the half. Dimensional drift to get info. Okeana's going to explore. They're not going to smoke off that window, and that's where Teague was, and that's the mess. So here's something better. Just put a wall in his face. Cosmic Divide used. Paranoia through as M80 think about maybe wanting to press that. Shock bolts are still going to be annoying, but Teague may just hesitate on wanting to drop down because of that ult. Spike is planted at least. Drones out. Plug start coordinating how they want to retake. They're all just gonna come through the window, and the Vi's ult has to come out to give Plug the edge. Now Spike gets tapped. M80 won't hear what's on the other side. As a Cosmic Divide from the defense emerge, this retake is successful. The Spike diffuse is being held, and M80 try to press forward, and the Spike diffuser gets killed at the last second. B-Dog just has to hold it down, but Plug will not waste any more time. And it's close, but it's still a 6-6 half.
B-Dog tried to do everything that he could to dance around his own smoke and try to drop those players with the shorties. I was wondering what was happening too. Bao was so far back, all the way back towards attacker spawn, trying to play the grapple off the tap. But as soon as the Cosmic Divide comes in from the defensive side, you got nothing left. You got to book it to try to move back forward and try to prevent the spike from being diffused. And everybody's just scrambling at that point here for M80. And they unfortunately allowed here Trust and Plug to get 2 easy rounds in round number 11 and 12 to tie up the game 6-6 going into the second half. So it looked very good on how they were macroing on the map at the very beginning. But these small rounds here just shows that the pressure is very, very strong and difficult to deal with on both sides. This is still a series that allows for you to qualify into playoffs or say goodbye to the playoffs. And those small mistakes could definitely be capitalized so far, and it has been by Trust and Plug.
It's a well-drilled defense from Plug at that point. Against just no information, but now they just have 3 watching mid. And then your controllers on each side of the map just to try and delay. But with all the info, with Plug sending their clone and even just straight up chaotic down on top of the box, B-Dog had to dance around it. M80 are at the window. They're smoked off. Just hoping to play off the info of the recon, I believe, that Caillou threw down. And it's not too bad. Plug are just walking into the guns of M80 at that window. Now they're deciding to hide away and stabilize. Line up the shot. Wait for M80 to peek. Now the spike is planted. The advantage is back to Plug.
They have 3 players getting ready to flood back from security. In the back spot here, Jurens, it's going to be difficult for him to win this.
Oh, but Jurens playing in the smoke, but Bao challenged him in the middle of that. Great teamwork with Sato. And it all just came down to Sacred to close out pistol for Plug.
And somehow they're just all lined up, flooding back on that side, and I think we're just spamming to try to protect and get a trade on the initial player, and then the other person just swung into the crosshair of Sacred, if not mistaken. But that said, I gotta say, trying to get a plant towards the A side seems to be very difficult for both teams, just because the recon darts are getting so much value. But thankfully, even if you're into a plant that doesn't really favor you here for Trust and Plug, they're able to convert that back. Despite the lower numbers, despite the bad position that they had, Sacred is still there to save the day.
And a 6-3 start for M80 ends with a 6-6 half, and now Plug taking pistol. We'll see how much of a buffer they can create with the weaponry that they invested in. And it's a free open site, so who cares what weapons you have when there's no one to shoot at. So this will give themselves a time advantage going forward, as M80 don't even want to play this round.
Yep. Anything with a letter and numbers in your tag, just expect for them to jump out of the map. Starting with G2, T1 did it in Bangkok, now M80 and VCL. It's just normal. But that said, at least they were able to get an orb up here for M80, and before they actually dropped down, right? They took control of the A side orb, dropped through, and now they have enough econ as well to go for a glass cannon up onto Sato in this round. Playing a very similar position as where Chaotic was trying to do a couple of rounds ago, not trying to get aggressive with it. And the other player, which is going to be on the side of Bao, has the full responsibility to watch towards that window to make sure that Sato doesn't get fully crushed on a swing. Actually, he's playing it very passively.
Yeah, just not the immediate peak until now when the shot into Jerwin is all of Plug converged, and the second and the third from M80. The wall is there, it's metaphorical, and Plug just hit it head on. Just get knocked out cold.
It almost felt like they had control of that site when the bloom was actually missed. The flower was thrown there on the vise from Mikey, and you tried to get the spray out from Bao. He missed it, and thankfully Sato is still able to turn away from it and still activate his dash to get into a good position and not allow Jurin to get full elevation control on a dash in. And that really started everything. Kick started the impressive hold that you saw from the operator over here. But at least it's bought super early into the second half. It's going to be very identified by Teague as the IGL, and they'll find ways to work around it going into the next rounds.
Oh, some noise, but M80 will continue to keep Caillou at that window. His B-Dog just early peek, teleport out, and even the shock bolts to kind of ruffle up the feathers of Plug, who wanted that orb. You keep Sacred over at B, but peeking on forward is Sato with the op. This could be a huge deny from Sacred if they ever lock eyes.
Unfortunately, they won't here. It was still, right now, Bao trying to watch towards that window, but as you see the time starting to dwindle down and the Sova is playing all the way on the front of the A site, they have to start pulling back to make sure that they don't lose control of the middle. Now the drone allows for them to get a little bit, and he also saw Chaotic on the other side, so beautiful. That also, once again, funnels him into the op of Sato.
Yeah, such an information battle in the first 30 seconds. Now Plug have still a drone in their back pocket. This will force a dash out from Sato, and he's pressured early. And Jerwin steals away the op from him, and the rest of Plug flood on in. And there's no one else left from M80. They're going to decide to save.
Yeah, look what happens instantly. You fall back and you save. You have no choice. And now, at least you're looking at the econ. They need these rifles going into the next round. This will potentially allow for you to get Bao like into a half shield kind of buy, and maybe, just maybe, you're going to get another. Actually, you will probably get another glass cannon, if not half shield buy for Sato with an operator. So that'll work out at least in their favor. But losing that mid control in the very beginning, and Trust and Plug once again manipulating that map with that fake util. And the insert that you have in the free escape from Chaotic with the TP from that Yoru really allowed for Trust and Plug here to flood into this B site where you just had to hit those shots for Sato. And when you don't, that's what happens after. An easy site to take, an easy plant, and a flawless coming through with not a lick of damage taken on the side of Trust and Plug.
Weapons made of metal to kill me.
Yeah, a lot of saves from M80 and a 3-1 start for offensive rounds for Plug. Timeout being called, I believe, and some ults to work with, mainly just Sato. But this has been quite a close affair, and M80, this is a good map for them, considering what the last time they went on this, they were successful, and on the other side, Plug really haven't played this in Challengers, but definitely have met a lot of force coming out of Plug, considering they upset YFP, and I think a lot of people need to respect Plug a lot more.
Definitely agree. You would think here that losing such a great mine in Monsi is going to affect the performances of Trust and Plug, but nah, this is still some great reads. You still have Teague that has had, should I put it this way, the mentorship coming out here from Monsi as the previous IGL, and then getting a trick or two out of his playbook, and being able to call some very good rounds so far against M80. And they have extra firepower with Chaotic joining in. very deep agent pool in terms of what they do with duelists. I think this series in itself for both M80 and PLUG, it kind of screams double duelists for both teams throughout the whole series, no matter what. So it's going to get fairly explosive. It's very fun watching these calls from both of these teams.
B-Dog leaving that jet helm to Sato. It's just, you're only going to see M80 get better and better now that
Oki
Sato's,
as well.
Yeah. It's just an M80 team that's going to level up, but will they get a chance to do that in playoffs? That's the tough one. That's the schedule being really tough on them. Just having Cuber and SRB there at the end and really being humbled, and we'll see what Trust and PLUG can do to humble them as well. It's a very slow, quiet default for PLUG.
When we said there was money enough here for M80 to go with the operator, you have Sato going for full shields and Vandal instead, and putting a lot of importance into a mid-control, mid-crunch, a TP for an escape here from Okeanos. This is a very standard position. You've seen a couple of riflers play this spot with the escape, like Leaf, for example, as well, right? If he's not opping, you could also go with the rifle and TP out.
This is quite a convincing fake for PLUG. Just have all this Yoru noise over at B, but the hit is at A, dashing in. Jerwin on top of the box, smoked off on window. PLUG are established, but there's some recons that is forcing someone like Chaotic back, and they gotta get back in. They gotta walk back in this window. At least the threat was dismantled by the Thorns, as B-Dog is forced back, and PLUG can just address the back site one at a time. Chaotic is low, but M80's retake isn't getting a foot in the door, literally.
Almost. Almost finally put
a toe
the first
went into
foot
the door,
exactly.
But, yeah.
But then it's just pretty much a stub toe moment right after, as soon as the third person came through. But the attention to detail for both of the teams are actually quite nice. From M80's positioning towards that B site, and then the fake being thrown by PLUG. I gotta say, how the hell did B-Dog survive escaping the A site all the way up towards heaven? But just a small detail of spraying that smoke, knowing that there's gonna be, you know, a Sova trying to go for a recon in that spot, just like Teague did on the top side. Trust and PLUG just sprayed that, got the easy kill onto Caillou. And you're not able to capitalize on any spray kills coming out from M80 on a defensive hold.
Who's next?
Can M80 get an early win in these rounds? They've only won one defensive round, and they just get so scared away by the firepower that is PLUG, and I don't blame them. It's a judge where the sun don't shine. You got Jerwin on top of the box. He can't even try to contest this. M80 are scared back. They're smoked off, and it's just another page in the playbook for PLUG to plant and call it a day. But at least M80 have numbers, equal numbers, but not the exact weaponry to cough back at him. The Sato's flank doesn't really work out, and PLUG hold their own.
Yeah, I just looked at the floor when he saw a weapon. Kind of like a ooh piece of candy moment, and then just got caught off there by Sacred playing the tight angle up towards the A main. Pretty much a one and done spot that allows for him to get even two very clean kills off the attempt of a flank here from M80, which also sparks. Oh man, I just did a unintentional word pun, but Sparks to call out a timeout on the side of M80 just to try to bring this game back on their side, because you're starting to slowly see here that their defensive rounds are not really pulling out in their favor, where you haven't really seen M80 get that aggressive in their gun rounds. They put a lot of faith rather into the operator in the very beginning on the B side, but once the economy starts getting broken a bit and they're trying to play rifles, yes, there's some mid control, but there's no aggression coming out of it. The only aggression that I've really seen is out towards their eco buys and on their thrifty buys and their lower buys, half buys. So I want them to be a little bit more proactive here, to not allow PLUG to do exactly what they're currently doing right now, playing a very slow, methodical of Valorant, that you see these late lurks still get so much value for all of the players. It's a solo lurk on top of that in that previous round. They got a kill.
Yeah. Now you got a tale of two cosmic divides, and last time we had a round like that, it got really crazy, but it was such an interesting chess match. But with the sides being reversed, M80, they got to stem the bleeding. It has to happen now, and at least this time they got better guns to do so.
There's
Still
an attack side op that you have here on PLUG, expecting some sort of a jump out off the timeout from M80. But that's really going to slow down the tempo here of Trust and Plug once again on their attack side.
At least M80 are being quirky over at A, kind of inserting Okeanos into that orb corner, but Plug are trying to have a staring contest down at mid, but no challengers, so M80 are playing as risk-free as they can.
Well, at least they've identified the Sato angle again in the front of that B site, but the pivot still goes back for Trust and Plug over towards A. And for them to stall this way is actually quite nice because you're just timing the timing of the gate crashes that disappears here from Okeanos as well. So now Okeanos is going to have to jiggle through, maybe fall back and play potentially just an anchor hold with the dimensional drift, or utilize that for the retake if he can.
See what the drone sees, and kind of like what Plug does before. They get info, it scares M80 off site, and then the retake is nails into a chalkboard. And Plug, they benefit from that. Cosmic Divide 2 seals off the window. They keep their focus set on the back. And you got the Vise ult from Mikey. And M80 try to carve through the window side, and Plug tried to catch him. Sato with a great double kill makes this easy. 2v2. It's not over yet. An important round for M80 with the eco, with the score, with Sato in the smoke, picked by Mikey, and Caillou could not help in time.
There was almost a slight overcook there with the flash going through the Cosmic Divide to fight back down towards the ramp. I think they were expecting more of a closer range fight for Trust and Plug, and Sato had a nice little 2K, but there was a huge gamble from M80 trying to anchor up towards that A side. Instead of just having B-Dog anchored by himself and just paranoia and try to go for a hero play, they added Okeanos on top of it so he could add the double flash coming through behind the wall and they could swing towards the front. Yes, he got the kill onto Jerwin dashing in, but everybody else from Trust and Plug followed way behind and just allowed for them to just get easy trades.
Okeanos teleports immediately out. Plug know it. Window of opportunity. Clone now. Paranoia from M80. They're flying to LUG, but there's no one to capitalize this from M80. And Jerwin's got the butter knives out. Now M80 are scared. Up at the window. Match point for Plug. This feels like destiny at this point. Sato and Bauer are the last ones left. And what a turnaround for Plug. Have a chance to upset M80 in map 1. And it's Sato in a 1v3 to define how this round, how this map could end. Dashes into the smoke. Checks out. Front of sight. No one there. Time not on his side. Sato stays calm, but Spike is ticking down. At the window, Mikey should get sights on the bun of this jet. And Sato can't just find any targets.
See my face right now.
Huge win for Trust and Plug. 13-7 at that, with what a dominating half after it started 6-6. Trust and Plug, we could be seeing another upset today, Vans.
100%. This is a crazy first map win for Trust and Plug. They never pulled out this map on Abyss, and then, or any composition on Abyss whatsoever for the VCL. Comes out with a double duelist comp and was able to outshine against M80's map pick of Abyss. That's very, very nice. And if you're telling me, by the way, Jen, on that previous round that Jerwin gets 2 kills like that with a Blade Storm, and you're calling those butter knives, I don't want to get killed by those because those have to hurt. And that may be the pain that continues on now for Trust and Plug going into that second map of Lotus, their map pick.
Yeah, he was cutting through them like butter, at least, that's for sure. We got another map around the corner, though. It is Lotus. It's Trust and Plug's pick. And despite Trust and Plug not even playing Abyss and Challengers, they sure know how to run it. And I'm excited to hear what the desk thinks about this, so stay tuned.
Just becoming happier again, and like, you know, just like wanting to do this out of like passion and like having fun rather than like some misplaced sense of like, if I'm not on the stage, then like Like, is this like worth it as much, right? Like, is putting in all these hours worth it as much? But to, you know, get to that point, like I need to continue, you know, grinding and staying accountable, you know, staying positive, staying happy, enjoying the process. And then if it's meant to happen, it'll happen.
No one is going to do the work for us. No one is going to come save us or help us get across the finish line. It's all about us, the time we put in, the quality of our work, you know, how serious we take it. We can be as good or as bad as we choose to be. It's not up to anybody else.
We don't have the luxury of having the experience like they do, right? We're all super young players, and it's something that we just have to learn to accept and, you know, just take it as in our identity.
Ignoring the public criticism, or just believing in yourself and betting yourself forward through.
This year, I just want to kind of write my own story. Something that I wasn't really able to feel like I could do last year was like kind of be exactly who I want to be and be the team that I exactly wanted to be. I was always trying to like fit into a mold. I'm really hoping that I do a good enough job for my teammates that I'm able to make them feel comfortable and make them like actually feel included in this whole process.
Play my own game. In these matches, people get kind of nervous, so playing careless, playing to your strength is always good.
Go fast alone or go far together, because at the end of the day, like we can, like everyone on our team can shoot, everyone can use their mic, but if we aren't playing together, we aren't going to win.
Don't stop grinding, but also be productive with the time that you have. I mean, it's very short, you know, to play in Valorant Esports. Make the most of it and make sure that, you know, you just have fun. If you're not having fun, why are we even here?
I feel like my team's motto recently is I just have to peak. And so I feel like if we carry that on for the rest of the year, we'll be owning. I feel like we just need to peak more and be more alpha. And I feel like that's what we need to think about.
I took on like a new role, and I need to be like okay with failing sometimes. I like hold myself way too hard sometimes. And yeah, I need to be okay with sometimes losing.